They'd taken my home, they'd taken my mental health, they'd taken my physical health, they'd taken my soul. I grew up in Ireland. I didn't have what one would say would be the most stable of childhoods. I had quite an abusive childhood for quite a long time, and I struggled with that for most of my life, still do. And that led me to a familiar story: alcohol and drugs. Yeah, joined the forces. That just heaped more trauma on top of an already young, troubled mind, and I hit the drugs and the alcohol with a reckless abandon. And that culminated in 10 years of lost life and addiction, and I eventually found myself over here. There was some foreign national people who I'd become friendly with when I first got to the country, and I didn't realise they were chronic drug users as well. And I met them one day down the town, and they were homeless and crying and said they needed a place to stay. And I said, guys, come and stay with me. Gosh, you're not going to be homeless. But turns out I let monsters into my home. They seen how traumatized I was. They seen that I was currently undergoing hepatitis C treatment, so they decided to become my carers. But I'd never experienced gaslighting before, and I never understood just how damaging it is to a human being. And I mean, they would be just knocking on my door and keeping me awake and making daft noises and doing stupid things. And when I pulled them on it, they'd say, "You really are very ill at the minute, aren't you?" And they'd give me £5 worth of drugs to shove in my arms and £2 or £3 for food, and they'd drop me off at some place they wanted me to steal more from. So I'd steal £1,000 worth of stuff, and I'd get £10 again and get dropped off to another place to steal more stuff, because they were my friends and they were my family. But they had hurt me in more ways. They'd taken my home, they'd taken my mental health, they'd taken my physical health, they'd taken my soul. And I still struggle nowadays, to this day, with psychosis that was induced by those people. It was induced by my traumas and my drug taking, but those people pushed me over the edge. I didn't think something like that would exist for what appeared to be a confident ex-military type, but nobody is immune. Nobody. So I didn't trust them, and I didn't feel safe at home, so I was sleeping on the streets, and I had no money, so I was eating from bins and committing crimes to feed my addiction. When you're homeless, you don't exist. You don't. I mean, people step over you. I mean, you could be fitting or having a seizure and people just assume it's alcohol or drugs and they'll leave you. So, to become invisible, I think that is probably the most difficult part of being homeless. If people were to say to me that modern slavery doesn't exist, I would laugh in their faces. It's everywhere. It's probably on their street and they don't even know it. It's hidden. You can't tell from somebody wearing clothes walking up a street that they're enslaved or enslaving someone. We don't walk around with labels around our necks saying, I am this and I am that. Nobody knows if the next person is mentally ill or if domestic violence is happening next door. We don't know these things, but they do happen. I didn't get free. I was sent to prison. That was my freedom, and I'm very grateful that I did. Prison was a very transformative place for me. It is a place of trauma and darkness, but I actually remember it quite fondly. It was a place where everything changed, and I met a vicar there who changed my entire outlook on life. And I was in prison, I was smoking spice and using drugs and just being a prisoner. And, this vicar approached me and he said, Chris, there's only two types of people who spend life in a cell. One is a prisoner and the other is a monk. And he told me I could choose which one I wanted to be. So I chose a monk because there was nobody going to punish me. So I used it to change my life. Quit smoking, quit drinking, started attending church. I started doing degree courses with the Open University. And just tried to be the best I could in a dark place, if that makes sense. I was completely alone. I had no visitors. I had no family. I had no friends. I was truly alone. And I think it was the best thing that could have ever happened because I had nothing. So I had to fight. And I did. When I walked through the door of the Cathedral Archer project, my first thought was chaos, chaos, because there's lots of people there and it's hustle and bustle. But it was like I was unused to it. I'd come from a custodial setting, and from the first moment I had an assessment with someone, the assessor genuinely cared. And I could tell it wasn't just part of their job or just something that they'd been scripted to do. This human entity genuinely cared about the other human entity sitting across from them. That was life-changing. It really was, you know, because I wasn't in prison for stealing apples, you know, and for someone to care and to trust me, that was life-changing. And they care about people at the Cathedral Archer Project. They really do. They care about the individual. And that life is beautiful. Life is for living. And homelessness is not living. It's merely existing. Life now is fantastic. Life is like night and day. It's like heaven and hell. I'm clean and sober, which is crazy. That's something I never thought would be, but I'm coming up to my 5th year clean and sober now. So yeah, I have a 1-year-old son and I'm engaged to be married to the woman of my dreams. I've got the most perfect family. I've got a beautiful flat. I've got a job, and you know, I've got a purpose. You know, like, it's a full-time job. People don't understand about addiction is you're not just a drug addict. You become that persona. And it's a 24-hour-a-day job being a drug addict, because you're not just using, you're scoring and you're grafting and you're stealing or you're shoplifting or you're begging just to feed that addiction. And to be like that for decades, you come to depend on the hustle and bustle. So you can't just, it's the lifestyle itself was addictive. So they gave me a whole new lifestyle, a healthy one, you know, and a more affirmative one, and something that's not going to hurt me.